Welcome to Mad Genius Archive. This is the place where we decode the warnings the world has chosen to ignore. Toddy. We begin a new journey with a prediction that sounds completely insane, yet it comes from one of the greatest minds of the 21st century. If Stephen Hawking was right, then we do not need an asteroid, we do not need a nuclear war. We do not need a rogue artificial intelligence humanity-owned development will burn the Earth one day. This planet could glow bright red like a ball of fire simply because we are growing too fast. In the year 2600, could the Earth truly become a giant furnace? Exactly the way Hawking warned. What made him believe that growth alone could be enough to bring humanity to its end? If you enjoy dark and hidden scientific stories, you should subscribe to the channel right now, because this is only the opening episode in a long chain of Stephen Hawking's most haunting warnings. Stephen Hawking became famous for his work on black holes and relativity, but in the final years of his life, he spent a great deal of time not talking about distant galaxies, but about the very near future of humanity. In a speech at a scientific conference hosted by Tencent in China, Hawking did not talk about equations, he did not talk about complex mathematics. He talked about the day the Earth turns into a ball of fire, looked at humanity's growth curve, and he saw something most people overlook. Said there is no sign that scientific and technological progress will slow down, but then he added a single sentence, a sentence that made the entire room fall silent. Exponential growth cannot continue for another millennium. Understand how frightening that is. We must look at an invisible enemy. Its name is exponential growth. Human beings evolved to sense immediate danger. We fear wild animals, we fear war, we fear accidents, but we do not fear lines on a graph. Exponential growth is dangerous because in the beginning it looks harmless. The population increases just a little, energy consumption increases just a little, everything still seems under control. But at a certain point, the curve stops bending gently, it shoots straight upward, and when that happens, everything changes too fast. Faster than any civilization can adapt. The population of humanity does not increase evenly. It is not one more this year and one more next year. It increases exponentially. It doubles, then doubles again. Energy consumption follows the same pattern every generation. We use more electricity, more fuel, more data, more everything. Hawking understood that if this curve continues, it will collide directly with the limits of the planet, and to help the world visualize that, he painted an incredibly disturbing picture. Hawking said if the population and energy consumption continue to rise at the current rate, then around the year 2600 two things will happen. First, human beings will become so numerous that every person on Earth would have to stand shoulder to shoulder on the planet's surface. No empty space. No private space, no concept of being spread out. Second, the amount of electricity we consume would release so much waste heat that the surface of the planet would heat up dramatically. At some point, if this trend does not stop, the Earth will glow bright red, like a piece of metal heated inside a furnace. For Hawking, this was not a vague prophecy. It was the inevitable conclusion of physics and mathematics, but many people misunderstood him. Hawking did not say that the world would end exactly in the year 2600. He was not playing a game of predicting the exact day the world would end. What he did was use a specific number to force us to confront the truth. Unlimited growth inside a limited space cannot last forever. The year 2600 was only an extreme example, a way to show us that if we do not change, we are heading straight into a warhead. Is truly frightening is that even without climate change, without greenhouse gases, without any man-made greenhouse effect, energy consumption alone is enough to heat an entire planet. Every joule of energy we use eventually turns into heat, whether it is a light bulb, an air conditioner, a data server, or an engine. All of it ends up as heat. If the amount of energy we use each year doubles, the amount of heat we release also doubles. Earth can radiate some of that heat into space, but that ability has limits. As we approach those limits, every additional unit of energy becomes one more small step toward a world glowing like a fireball. This is no longer a matter of opinion. It has nothing to do with political arguments. This is simply the law of thermodynamics. Shane did not only look toward the future, he also looked back at the past. Through human history, many civilizations believed they could continue growing forever. The Maya built cities, burned forests, expanded agriculture, until they no longer had enough resources to support themselves. And Easter Island people cut down every tree, built massive stone statues, and eventually the entire ecosystem collapsed. The Roman Empire, the Khmer Empire, and countless others, all of them followed the same pattern: rapid growth, resource consumption beyond what nature could regenerate, and then a sudden collapse. The only difference is in the past, when one civilization collapsed, the rest of the world still survived, but this time is different. This time we have only one global civilization, only one interconnected system, only one planet on which to make mistakes. That is why Hawking believed we are entering the most dangerous period in human history. According to him, in the next few centuries, the speed of population growth, energy consumption, and technological expansion will push us into the vertical part of the curve. In the surface, everything still looks normal. We go to work, we use our phones, we watch movies, we laugh and talk about the future, but on the graph we are climbing straight upward. Hawking did not try to frighten us. He wanted to send a message: growth is not always good, and unlimited growth inside a closed system like Earth is a formula for self-destruction. At the end of that speech, Hawking did not leave the audience in despair. That humanity's only real chance of survival may lie beyond Earth. Day, we may have to leave this planet, not because we want adventure, but because we are forced to find a new home. But that is a story for another episode. This episode exists to tell you one thing: if Stephen Hawking was right, then the force that will burn the Earth is not a giant asteroid, not a collapsing star, not an angry god. It is us, and the growth curve we created for ourselves. If what you just heard makes you see the world a little differently, do not forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell, because this is only the first warning. In the next episode, we will explore an even more haunting idea. Stephen Hawking believed that within the next 1,000 to 10,000 years, humanity will almost certainly face an extinction level disaster, and why he said that the next 100 years will be the most fragile period in all of human history. In episode 2, The Extinction Clock, the extinction countdown of humanity.